Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are in the world and whenever you are tuning into this video. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
And welcome to another very special edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. It's a new day. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Maybe not the new day that everyone else was expecting going into Monday Night Raw, but man, oh man, is there lots to talk about there. We got the New Day and their anniversary celebration. We got CM Punk to talk about. We got Seth Rollins. We got a return that also happened this past Monday night on Raw and a bunch of other stuff. We got Gunther to talk about, which, spoiler alert, I'm about to go off and rip Triple H a new asshole. If you've seen our social medias of me talking about it briefly, you guys know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go full in depth, as I'm sure, Brian, you will as well. But let's not waste any more time, man. This is Monday Night Raw. This is the post Survivor Series show. There is a lots of anticipation going into or after what transpired in Survivor Series. So hopefully Triple H has some stuff cooking for this said show. So we're going to talk all about it, and we'll save AEW, of course. You know, AEW Dynamite was last night, but we'll save that for this weekend as well as with SmackDown. And then, of course, we got Saturday night's main event coming up just, I believe, in a week from now, or maybe a week and a half.
After my birthday, man. Yeah, next, not this Saturday, next Saturday. Yeah.
Happy early birthday to my man Brian Thomas. There you go, brother. As we'll celebrate, I'm sure, over the next several days.
Definitely looking forward to that. And you got a nostalgia main event, birthday weekend. Hell yeah, man.
Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah, man. Holidays and all that stuff. It's a good time, no doubt. Minus the cold weather, but you know that's neither here nor there. But first things first, man. Before we get into Monday Night Raw, I'm sure if you guys follow us on Instagram, you guys have seen our Spotify Wrapped numbers from this year. Man, it's crazy.
That took me by surprise a little bit. Like sorry to cut you off, but I was like, oh, that, like, the growth that much, like, fuck, all right, sweet.
Yes, seriously, man, I was really taken back on how the number of followers and the number of viewers and listeners that we've gained, man. And, most of it kind of just goes out to all the people that have been a part of this podcast or have been watching this podcast since day one and just spreading the word and getting our name out there. And of course, to all of the other content creators that I'm sure it's been a lot of word to mouth type of thing as well. So to everybody, man, regardless of who it is, we want to thank everybody.
The wrestlers that we've had on.
Wrestlers, absolutely. To people like Shoddy Lee Johnson, shout out to him. People like Alex Kane, people like many other DJ Springs as well. So many other wrestlers that we've had on this platform. And of course, many more to come, by the way. Stay tuned for it. But yeah, man, for everybody listening, I try to rationalize words, planning in regards to these types of scenarios, but I'm honestly just speechless, man. It's crazy how far this platform has come in regards to the growth and the amount of people that know about this platform. And just thank you guys, whether you're coming from YouTube, whether you're coming from Spotify, Apple Podcasts,
another country.
Or multiple countries, 6 countries that people listen to this freaking podcast.
Thank you all. Yeah,
absolutely, man. We can't thank you guys enough. We appreciate you guys so much, and more to come in 2025. We want to just thank you guys for hearing our voice and just supporting and understanding where we come from as wrestling fans, and understand that we have our likes and dislikes, but man, when something is the drizzling shits, if we'd like to call it, we're going to call it out. And if something's good, we're going to praise the fuck out of it and say it's good. But we appreciate that you guys understand that we come from an honest perspective. It's not just about how we personally feel. It's about an honest perspective using objective criticism, but it never takes away of how much we appreciate pro wrestling and how much we love pro wrestling. And for you guys to understand that, all the listeners and viewers, everybody, we appreciate that. I truly appreciate that. And Brian, I'm sure you appreciate that as well. And just can't thank you guys enough, man, for the massive amount of growth from this year. And who knows what's to come in 2025, man. I'm excited for it. I really, truly appreciate all of you guys that are listening, that are watching this on YouTube. And yeah, man, stay tuned for more content to come in 2025. Lots of big things that are cooking as well for this podcast. So, but enough of that, man.
Let me add something to that real quick, man. Again, thank you to everybody, guests, viewers, other content creators, just everybody. And also to the haters, man. Hey, like, look, I learned this back in 93, 94, Howard Stern, man. Whether you're listening to us because you love us or hate us, you're still fucking listening. So,
yeah.
Hey, you want to come on here, and it's, bickering or whatever, we're fucking stupid. Hey, bring it, man. 2025, guns are blazing, bitches. Like, I don't care.
Love it, man. It's funny you mentioned that too, man. Like, it's funny because there's so many just viewers that view the product that we put out, and it's always when it comes to when we do criticize certain things that they come out of the woodworks and they'll come into the comment section. But when we talk about stuff that's positive, they're nowhere to be found. They just it's crickets, But that's just social media in general, not just the wrestling community. But to even those people, man, we love you guys too. We appreciate the comments. Yeah. We appreciate all of it. We appreciate you just being that just upset about what we have to say. But either way, we want to thank you guys so much for all the support from this year in 2024. And once again, there's going to be big things to come in 2025, some special guests that are in the works, some more pro wrestlers, some more talents that are also in the works as well. So stay tuned for it, man. Big things to come in 2025. And thank you guys so much for an amazing year. So
shout out to Richie Mars too. I got you. If you happen to see this, I got your congratulations to me. Thank you, buddy.
Nice. Yeah. Shout out to Richie Mars. Make sure you guys go check out Richie Mars. One of our top or legit number one listened show this year was the Royal Rumble Roundtable, legit almost a year ago now, which was Richie Mars was a part of that. So shout out to him.
So it was last year's Royal Rumble
was our most viewed for this year. Yeah, was our most viewed, most listened to show. So yeah,
shout out Richie.
Shout out to Richie who was a part of that, and people like Top Bunk, people like Jalen that was a part of it. Of course there were many other top listen shows, but that was number one, was the Royal Rumble Roundtable. So it seems like you guys love these roundtable events or these episodes. So hey, listen, there's going to be more to come. We got a Royal Rumble Roundtable.
At least the big four. At least the big four.
Exactly. There, we got another special one coming up for the Royal Rumbles. That's just in a couple more weeks. Is the Royal Rumble coming up? I believe that's February 1st, and we have our roundtable event that will be the week before that. So a lot of juicy content coming your way once Raw goes to Netflix. And yeah, man, I'm excited for it. So, but speaking of Monday Night Raw, let's dive straight into the show. Another mixed bag of a lot of things, a lot of good segments, a lot of befuddling segments, kind of just the MO of WWE at this point. But let's talk about it, shall we? Let's start off with CM Punk, who kicked off Monday Night Raw. So CM Punk talks about how he's putting all of his personal business aside with Drew McIntyre, talking about his personal business with Paul Heyman, and he talks about the Royal Rumble, where his trajectory is going to go. Is it the Royal Rumble? Is it the Elimination Chamber? And now, at the end of it, he's now has a favor or two in his pocket that he can call upon to get there. And all of a sudden, we hear, "Burn it down!" It's Seth Rollins and his music.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
That was my reaction, because I'm thinking, thank God we're kicking Punk and Seth Rollins into high gear. I never thought, Brian, I would love to hear Seth Rollins' theme music, that fucking song, in my life.
I still don't.
I don't either, but at least from that moment, I'm like, all right,
I'm
getting pumped, because now we're going to kick this into high gear. So more of that in just a second here. So Seth Rollins comes out, and this dude is just pretty much looking for a fight. He's like, listen, I'm going to do something that I should have done months ago, and that's just knock CM Punk on his ass. He talks about how he's thought about him over the last 6 months and getting his hands on him. And of course, teaming with Roman Reigns has something to do with that, of course, from Survivor Series. And Punk's response was hilarious. He's like, dude, you say you've been you've been thinking about me the last 6 months, bro. I haven't thought about you at all. So either, you get out of my way and you stay out of my business. And then Seth Rollins is like, dude, this is my business. And he shoves CM Punk on his ass. And then Sami Zayn and Jey Uso, they come into the ring to separate both of these two. Adam Pearce and security, they come out. They try to separate Punk and Rollins. And then Jey Uso and Punk, they ended up scurrying to the back as he was trying to separate Punk, and they ended up going to the back. And then it was just with Seth and Sami Zayn. So Sami Zayn and Seth kind of just went at it in regards to it. And, Rollins is like, or Sami Zayn, I'm all over the place. I apologize. Sami Zayn, was going after Seth like, hey, don't talk to Jey Uso that way. He's like, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. He's family, but what's your excuse, man? What's your excuse? You're not family. Like, what the hell are you doing here, man? Like, you turned your back on me because we've been in this business now for several years, for decades, and you turned your back on me for teaming with CM Punk. And Sami Zayn's like, dude, did you think I wanted to team with CM Punk? Like, I wanted to team with you, but guess what? You turned down this offer twice. So CM Punk was willing to help. What did you want me to do? We needed a fifth member. Punk was there when we needed a fifth member. You didn't want to team with us because you're too stubborn, because you're so stubborn with this whole Roman situation. And Seth Rollins is like, first of all, like, what did you want me to team with you for? Oh, that's right. You wanted me to team with Roman Reigns, a guy for 4+ years that has legit made an enemy and a mockery out of everybody in that locker room. And then they just continue to go back and forth at one another in regards to it. And he's like, listen, you want to talk about me teaming with Roman. Guess what? This monster that's Roman Reigns. Well, guess what? You created that monster 10+ years ago when you hit that steel chair to the back. And you're like, and Seth Rollins, he takes blame for it. He's like, listen, you're right. And I take full responsibility for that. But guess what, dude? Your hands are not clean because you did the exact same thing to Roman Reigns with a steel chair over his back. So kind of just counter punching one another with different jabs at one another. And this kind of led to Sami Zayn like, listen, well, why don't we just settle our differences in the ring tonight? And Seth Rollins is like, all right, you got it. You're on, drops the microphone and walks off. So I'll start with saying this. First of all, both interactions were really good. I'm not going to take away anything from, even with Punk and Rollins, and no doubt between Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. And you can kind of see the mannerisms are changing with Seth Rollins. You can tell that a heel turn is pretty evident at this point. And all of it was really good. And this was 24 minutes to start the show off, was dedicated to this segment. So here's my take. My first take is that the interactions were really good. Everybody involved did their thing, and the way that they said it, how they said the jabs back and forth was really good. But here's where I have to go into a different direction with this. And Brian, just hear me out. And it's kind of similar to, Brian, what you've said about Sami Zayn in this bloodline situation, right? It started off straight fire with Punk and Rollins. I'm thinking, okay, Punk and Rollins, this is the way to go, right? We're revisiting this situation, right? Let's really kick things into high gear. Let's really create this massive headline, and let's create all of this steam and momentum heading into WrestleMania season. So they did that whole interaction, and then majority of the rest of this segment wasn't even about Punk and Rollins. It was just about Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins in a face-versus-face matchup. Because let's be honest, yes, Seth is most likely going to be in a more heelish type of scenario, but he's still a face. He's most likely going to be a heel, but he's still a face. So all of this for 24 minutes was just to set up a face-versus-face match with Sami Zayn. And I'm telling you guys right now, and even though I'm not saying it is right now, but if they continue to kind of like push this Punk and Rollins thing aside, because they tried to revisit it last year, and we all know what happened last year with the injuries, and now they're trying to revisit this year. And they have to be careful, Brian, because if this is how you're getting to Punk and Rollins the way that they did that this past Monday, I can see this being cooled down faster, sooner rather than later, because majority of this segment, you forget, especially after a surprise return that you would get later on in the night, you would almost be like, oh, that's right. You forget about the 2+ minutes that Punk and Seth Rollins had. So they got to be careful not to try to cool that steam down, because there's still a lot of steam with that feud. But if this is how they're going to go about things, and I get it, you want to plant that seed and revisit it in the future. But this is already a year that you're trying to revisit this whole feud. So the fact that it's already been a year because of the injury, so they have to be careful to not lose that steam and not let it cool down, because majority of this segment, again, was just all about Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins. It wasn't even about Punk and Seth Rollins at that point. So that's where I feel indifferent about the whole situation. And again, the face versus face matchup, and I'll get more into that once we get into the main event itself. But what did you think, Brian? I did a lot of talking there, but what are your thoughts on this opening segment with Punk, Rollins, Sami Zayn, and everybody involved?
Yeah, man. I mean, the beginning of it, I mean, all of wrestling is ready for this, for Rollins and Punk, So, yeah, that was great. And look, these both are, when wrestling is at its best, look, we wrestling fans, we know that, yes, Rollins and Punk do have real life animosity. They're two grown men that don't happen to like each other.
Right.
But they're professionals and they're going to do business. And that's where the beauty fucking happens. I mean, it's just shown so many times over and over again in wrestling. I mean, you go back to I mean, fucking Dusty and Flair. I mean, there was, yes, there was friendly, a friendly, and they understood, they played off each other, but there was competition, even personal, in their personal lives. Like, they were competing against each other. Stone Cold and The Rock, NWO, when their initial, when they came in, and I don't know if it was Scott Hall or Nash, like, hit the real baseball bat on the stairs to let you know that's a real bat. It's not a gimmick bat. And we didn't really know what was going on, what was real, what was not. That's when wrestling is, mwah. I mean, you can't. The realism mixed with the production and theatrics is what makes it so fucking good. So yeah, that segment with Seth and Punk, awesome. I'll save the Sammy stuff for later once we get to the main event because of the surprise return. But my only question here is, I mean, we're in December now, right? I would speculate that the favor owed to Punk is a main event at Mania. Whoever, I mean, you would assume it's maybe against, Roman or whatever, but a main event match at Mania, that's the promise, right? And here we are in December, and I mean, Rollins and Punk is a Mania main event match. And that doesn't really correlate with the favor that Heyman. So I don't know. You're right. Like, are we just stalling here? This is going to get cooled off again. I don't know.
It's interesting. It's really weird. It's like we're muddying the waters and we're kind of blurring the lines with a lot of other things that are involved here. Like you said, like this favor from Paul Heyman, and now this Sami Zayn is now involved in this, and then a certain somebody that we're going to talk about that made his return. It's just like there's more of that's being, just blurred here, and not Punk and Rollins and kickstarting that feud finally. So that's just where I find it weird. Like, the nucleus of this first segment was just with Sami Zayn and Rollins, just to set up a match later on in the night. I'm like, I don't know.
Really, like, to set up that match, but really then just to have also to set up the return that we'll talk about.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So speaking of this return, we'll kind of just jump straight into this. So Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. So this was the matchup. So later on in this match, Sami Zayn So Jey Uso was attacked backstage. We don't know who attacked Jey Uso backstage. It's kind of like this similar situation with Jade Cargill that she's got going on right now, that the ladies have going on right now. So Sami Zayn believes that it's Seth Rollins that attacked Jey Uso. So Sami Zayn, he doesn't just want to just beat Rollins in a matchup. He just wants to just obliterate this dude. He took a steel chair. He's about to, and then Seth Rollins is like pleading his case. He's like, use your head, man. Like, I didn't attack Jay. Like, what are you doing? Like, stop this. Like, enough. And then Sami Zayn finally kind of came to his senses a bit. He tosses the steel chair out the ring. And then Seth Rollins takes advantage and he hits Sami Zayn with the awe-inspiring roll-up finish and pins Sami Zayn. And then Seth Rollins wins the matchup and kind of just consoling him afterwards like a dog. And then Seth just walks off. And then shortly after, frickin' Sami Zayn gets a Claymore from a returning Drew McIntyre with the hood and all. This was kind of funny. I don't know what, this kind of just stuck out to me. Joe Tessitore, he's already like, he's got the hood over his head. So I'm sure they were like playing like, I don't know, maybe the mystery angle of like, oh, who is that? Right. Even though we all know it was McIntyre because he had a fucking Claymore. But it's just like, you would think like you would, the commentators would wait until Drew revealed himself, like hit from his hoodie. It's Butch, right? He's already saying it's Drew McIntyre, and then Drew McIntyre finally reveals himself. I'm like, bro, like at least wait for him to take off the hood or something. Like, I mean, I get it. We know it's McIntyre, but I don't know. We've seen that.
Yeah, kind of a little. They jumped the gun a little bit there.
Yeah, I mean, even though we've seen it before, I think he's done it before once. Even there was a segment with Punk months ago to where he attacked Punk from behind to set up that steel Hell in a Cell match for Bad Blood. And Joe Tessitore already jumped the gun and said like, "Oh, it's McIntyre," and then he finally reveals himself. He takes off his hood. So McIntyre takes out Sami Zayn. He's targeting Sami Zayn now. There's many ways to think about this, right? I'm sure a lot of people are thinking, he comes back to just take out Sami Zayn. That's kind of mid in a way, but where I can hear where people are coming from in a way, like is that really a grand return for Drew McIntyre to come back? But as far as this making sense, guys, it does to a degree, and I'll tell you why. Because clearly Drew McIntyre has this, because, you know, if he did most likely take out Jey Uso, which I'm assuming that he did, these are all, I'm sure, members that Drew McIntyre is targeting that teamed up with Roman Reigns at Survivor Series. Like a lot of these storylines, Brian, if you haven't noticed, they all revolve back to Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, and Kevin Owens right now. Right, you got this CM Punk and Seth Rollins, and now it seems like with Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, and Jey Uso in that mix. So it makes sense. Well, James, what is this leading to? Drew McIntyre and Roman? Not sure. I mean, I'm willing to at least see how this goes because, you know, and again with Seth Rollins now more of a heel moving forward, and you got a heel Drew McIntyre. Those are your top two heels right there. Another certain somebody that we're going to get into should also be a fucking heel, but we'll get to that later. So as far as making sense, it does, to where maybe I'm sure you'll see this type of, I don't know, and I've been hearing this from people that maybe some type of allegiance with Seth and Drew because they have this common type of, I guess, feeling towards Roman and the bloodline and what they've did over the course of 4 years. So I'm sure you'll see those two kind of cross paths and maybe have this type of allegiance moving forward.
KO
possibly KO, as he feels the same way. I mean, you know, as of right now, I mean, again, there's no fucking
War Games next year. Here we go.
Planting the seeds for next year's War Games. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of just what it's coming across to me, that it's all revolving back to Roman Reigns and all of the chaos and animosity that he has created from everybody that's been involved with the bloodline and what's been going on over the last 4 years. So now again, who knows where this leads to? This could be very repetitive. This could be very just dull because we've seen Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn in many matchups before. We've seen Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso in many matchups before. Yep. So this could be very redundant. It could legit go that way. But the fact that it does make sense and there is a way that you can make this somewhat refreshing. And I'm not giving Triple H any hope or any benefit of the doubt, but I'm willing to stick my neck out, kind of the same way with the way you feel, Brian, about Shinsuke Nakamura and LA Knight over on SmackDown with this US title situation. I'm willing to see where this goes because this situation can be really, really good for Drew McIntyre and everybody involved, especially because of the fact that it does make sense and there's avenues that you can go about within this situation. But what do you think, Brian? Drew McIntyre has returned. He's targeting Sami Zayn and most likely Jey Uso. What are your thoughts, man?
If I'm being honest, I mean, yeah, my initial thoughts are I don't really like it. I agree with everything you said. Like it does fit, it makes sense. But you mentioned it. Really my biggest issue with it is everything. Like so many wrestlers, everything ties back to Roman. I mean, KO, Cody, Orton, even you throw Orton in there. So that's, and you have Sami Zayn come out there and, so Rollins is attacking him for being, helping the bloodline, and Drew's going to do this. So it's the same story with Sami. Like everybody's going to attack him now because he's still with the bloodline. So it's just the same story, just change the wrestler, Rollins,
Right.
Drew, whoever.
Yeah.
So that's where, I mean, I know with everybody in it, you Sammy, Jay, the whole bloodline, Rollins, Punk, McIntyre, KO, there's going to be great moments and great segments all throughout. It's just that, really everything does go back to Roman. And when all your top superstars have storylines tied back to one dude, what are we doing? I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
so that's where I'm a little hesitant. It's I see where they're going. Yes, it makes sense. But you can't have every story tying back to
Roman.
not even the bloodline, specifically Roman.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. I'll definitely, it's like I said, there's going to be, I'm sure, great matches created out of it, great moments, segments. But when you're tying it all to one dude, I'm just a little hesitant about it.
Yeah. No, and that's, like I said, that's fair because, like I said, even before, it's a mixed bag for me. But again, it does make sense. But this could easily go off the rails because this could really kind of get repetitive. Because again, we've seen these
Drew,
matchups
Drew.
before.
I mean, we need to see another Sammy and Drew match, a Drew and Jay match. I mean,
yeah, no, it's fair to bring up, honestly, that
Yeah.
this could get very stale very quickly because we've seen many matchups with Jay and Drew and Sammy. Drew and Punk. Do they cross because they're still
Rollins
on the same
and
brand?
Drew.
Rollins and right, absolutely. So this could truly go off the rails sooner rather than later, but I am willing to see how this plays out, right? Let it play
Me
out,
too.
James. Let it play out. Let Triple H cook, man. All right, well,
All right.
I'm gonna let him cook, bro. Hopefully, he doesn't burn the fucking kitchen down because we'll see where it goes. But yeah, Brian, when it comes to, like you said, and I mentioned it earlier, everything kind of tying back to Roman Reigns, it is very weird. It is very weird, but that's the direction that they're going. It does make sense to that degree. Because you would want all of these people involved to have this type of animosity that doesn't have to just revolve around one dude. It's their own specific story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, this is where they want to go. It's good to see Drew McIntyre, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we had a feeling that, Drew McIntyre was going to be returning sooner rather than later as well. I still wish they could have done something, though, even though and I mentioned it in the Survivor Series review just last episode, to where, yeah, they'll possibly have a return. They'll do this Punk and Rollins interaction, but my statement still stands, man, that they should have had something for that pay-per-view, for that PLE, to jumpstart, to kickstart into Monday Night Raw. Just again, for the pay-per-view itself, like, you needed something to end the show, and it just ended so underwhelming. And I get it, we got this, and it's a mixed bag overall, but I'm willing to see where things go, because Punk and Rollins, we know how good that can be, because like you said, Brian, the animosity and how real that, I guess, feud, because the animosity and the hatred that those two do have one another and their history.
Real life shit, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And they can create some really good stuff together. But I'm telling people, man, if this is for Punk and Rollins specifically, if this is how they're going about things and blurring the lines and continuing to revisit, and we're going to push it aside, then revisit again, push it aside. I'm telling you, man, this could potentially cool down sooner rather than later. That spark that it once had could truly go out in the snap of a finger.
And here, this is my last comment too regarding that. Like, again, tying back to the favor with Heyman. I mean, like, in all reality, the Rollins and Punk has got to happen sooner than later, and not just for storyline wise, but real life. I mean, how many times has Punk's been back in wrestling? 4 years now, or whatever it is, and how long of that has he been injured?
Yeah.
That's just the real life, things. Like, you can't just keep postponing this and hoping like, oh, we'll get to it down the road. Like,
yeah,
it's one day that road ain't going to be there anymore.
No, absolutely. No one's gonna truly really care about it the way they used to when it first started.
Yeah.
You only get one shot at a first impression when it
Do
comes
not miss
to
your chance to blow.
Exactly right. Shout out to Eminem, right? So yeah, man, and that's just it, man. When that spark is gone, man, it's hard to reignite it. And the same goes with Rock and Roman. I mean, if they really are gonna try to push this back another year with Rock and Roman, I'm telling you too, man, like, don't be shocked if people just don't give a shit about Rock and Roman once we get to that point. We want to play this long-term storytelling game, but how much is it beneficial if all you're doing, if you're just continuing to push it back and then revisit and push it back? It's just going to get stale, and it's not going to be interesting to a whole lot of people. But yeah, Brian, go ahead. I know you got another statement.
I want to get your thoughts on it. I know we'll be off topic, but like, I got a thought. I really think, like, I don't know when this would happen, but it would not shock me if it's early next year once they move to Netflix. It really wouldn't. Like, we're going along here as if, Triple H is going to be head of creative. I'm not so sure. Like, not that he's done anything in the wrestling business. Like, all this shit with Vince is still going on. And like it or not, Triple H is the son-in-law. He's been there. He's, once these lawsuits and depositions and court proceedings start happening, he's going to be involved in that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, man, TKO at some point, I really believe The Rock is going to be running this shit, man. I don't know when that's happening.
Mm.
And I'm not saying it's even like, Triple H is like kicked out. I'm just saying, like, whether it's, he just cuts his losses, like, fuck, I've made my money. I'm tied up in this. TKO and The Rock are here. I don't know. But what are your thoughts on that, man? Like, I'm not convinced, like, Triple H is in the long-term plans of TKO and all that, with Rock in the picture.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, you can say that TKO and Endeavor kind of want a clean slate, especially now on a brand new streaming service. It's might be better off that this company is better run without a McMahon running
Yeah.
creative at all. Honestly,
Absolutely.
that includes Triple H. I'm just being honest with
Stephanie,
you.
yeah.
Stephanie too.
Right. Yep.
Now, anything
Right.
that involves Vince McMahon, they just want to get rid of. They don't want anything to do with Vince McMahon. They've made that statement clear. With Triple H, I don't know if, and who knows when it comes to business and in regards to the McMahon family itself, because you're right, that's a possibility. I don't know if that will necessarily tie into Triple H because he doesn't really have anything to do with these accusations itself,
Right.
with Vince McMahon being a part of that. I don't know.
I don't see there's a way that, like, even Stephanie, Stephanie, Triple H,
yeah, because
their hands
they're
aren't clean.
yeah,
Again, I don't know what they knew or when they knew or how much, but their hands aren't clean.
yeah. No, it's possible. Just because the fact that they are family, right? And you would and the fact that they have a family relationship with Vince, just from that alone, and like you said, their hands aren't clean. I'm sure maybe they know something that maybe we don't know. I don't know.
I don't know if Triple H is going to be there long term, man. I mean, we'll see.
It wouldn't shock me, honestly. Like it could come to the point to where TKO and Endeavor, they just want to just
because
be ridden. No, you're good. You're good. It's just mainly like it's possible that they would just want to get rid of the Vince McMahon name or the McMahon name entirety and just have a clean slate. And that includes Triple H because he's a part of the family. So yeah, that's my take on it, really. Yeah.
So, I mean, even in just The Rock's relationship with TKO in general, and then who is it? Brian Gerwitz.
Brian Gerwitz. So I believe he's The Rock's. He was one of his creative writers. Recently. Well, he was a creative writer with, I believe, decades and decades ago with WWE, and then he was part of The Rock's creative team when The Rock came back with this Final Boss character. I praised Brian Gerwitz, by the way, because he had a really good helping hand with that segment with Cody Rhodes when The Rock beat the shit out of him outside of his little tour bus or whatever, Cody Rhodes' little tour bus when Monday Night Raw went off the air. So yeah, I'm sure. And, who knows if The Rock, and I'm sure, The Rock, I'm sure, and Brian Gerwitz, I'm sure, still have that working relationship when The Rock does come back. Who knows when that time will be, but yeah,
TKO, The Rock, Brian Gerwitz. I mean, I don't know, that might be people heading up creative in the not too distant future.
At the end of the day, bro, honestly, I think WWE creative wise and what's best for the product, it honestly might be better that WWE is being ran without a McMahon involved. I'll be completely honest with you. That includes Stephanie, that includes 100%. Triple H, that includes every McMahon in its tenure. Honestly, I think it'll be best suited for these shows. I think it'll be best suited for the product. So that's just how I feel, honestly, because I've said this like a broken record, and I know it's kind of off topic here, but I truly feel, man, with Triple H, and yes, he does things that are better than others when it comes to Vince McMahon and his creative. Like, Vince McMahon was just bad. Like, Vince McMahon, the last 10 years, it was just
10 plus years.
Oh,
bad.
Absolutely.
Bad.
But there's things that Triple H does, man, that are just so confusing. It's not that it's just also bad, but it's also confusing. Like, most of it just doesn't make sense. And I think I'm just at a point to where WWE just might be better off without a McMahon running the ship, honestly. Yeah. So, but who knows? But getting back to Monday Night Raw here, man, and let me end it with this. I know we're going a long time with this, but
sorry, man.
No, you're good. No, honestly, I mean, obviously, we know that this conversation is going to be had at some point. I'm sure there's going to be talks, especially when they start on Netflix and going into 2025. It's a good conversation to have. But for this main event, right, the roll-up finish, I have to just bring this up for like 2 seconds. Listen, the roll-up finish, you guys know how I feel about it, but you did this roll-up finish, and then not only that, but you also did the same exact finish the segment before with R-Truth and Butch, aka Pete Dunne. It's just like you did two of the exact finishes, and you question, and you're like, does Triple H know what he's approving? Like, you're doing the same exact back-to-back finishes nonsensically. Oh, my God. And that's why I say, Brian, I'm just like, this company might be better off just without Triple H or a McMahon running this shit, period. But yeah, man, that's my little mini rants in regards to the roll-up, the devastating maneuver in pro wrestling that for some odd reason nobody can kick out of.
Nobody can kick out of that
Nobody
shit,
can kick out of that shit. There's the super kick, there's the pedigree, there's the brain buster, right? There's the 450 splash, but it's the fucking roll-up, man, that just nobody can figure out. I don't know what it's ultra devastating, as I always say, bro. All right, man, let's get into Gunther. This is going to be a doozy one for sure. And we talked a lot about Gunther from his matchup at Survivor Series, and of course how it ties into Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Now, it is official for Saturday night's main event that Gunther will be defending his world championship against Finn Balor. Heel Finn Balor, let me just remind everybody, heel Finn Balor going up against heel Gunther, right? Oh, but James, these mannerisms are face. He's still a heel. He's still really not a face. He's still a heel until further notice. Are they turning him face somewhat? Yes, but he's still a heel. So heel versus heel for this big said world title matchup, I don't understand it. That's another baffling decision. So for Gunther, he was in a matchup with Dominic Mysterio. He wins the matchup, and Finn Balor attacks him after the matchup, hits him with not one, not two, three coup de grace from the top rope, and Finn Balor stands tall over Gunther. And there was also some animosity now with Finn Balor and the rest of Judgment Day. There's cracks that are starting to show with Finn Balor and Dominic and the rest of Judgment Day. So they're also trying to tell that as well. Listen, man, look, I can go on for hours about this weird, baffling decision to turn Gunther face because it makes absolutely no sense at all. Because, guys, whether you like this statement or not, because Gunther at his best is when he talks trash, he's talking shit, and he's a diabolical heel as the ring general. I'm better than you. I'm going to talk shit to you while I do it. That's Gunther. But for some odd reason, they thought it was a good idea to play this game that, I'm losing my confidence after one loss to Cody Rhodes. Now my confidence is shot. I have to reinvent myself. And now I'm this new reemerge, this reborn version of Gunther, the good guy that's Gunther. And that's what they want to do, Brian. It's stupid, but that's what they're doing. But Brian, I'm going to give you an example. And if you guys heard me on social media, you guys know where I'm going with this. I'm going to give you an example of how stupid this fucking shit is. This whole decision is turning Gunther face, right? So Finn Balor getting attacked, right? Or Finn Balor attacking Gunther. Clearly, you can see, Brian, what the accomplishment with this segment is that they're trying to get fans to lay their guard down with Gunther, right? He's getting his ass beat by Finn Balor, and they're trying to give Finn Balor all of this heel heat and animosity, right? He's delivering 3 coup de grace, and Finn Balor looks more of the diabolical heel. That's what they're doing. You're painting Gunther as more of the face in this whole situation. But I don't know if you caught this, Brian. After the third coup de grace, do you know what the crowd was chanting after that third coup de grace, Brian?
No, I missed it.
One more time. One more time. One more time. They want Finn Balor to hit another coup de grace against Gunther, the guy that you're trying to get the fans to get behind.
Yep, I missed that. Oh, man.
If that's not a booking botch, if that's not an epic fail, I don't know what is, man. Legit, guys, Triple H, he was trying to cook something up in the kitchen, and the crowd pretty much told him to get the fuck out because whatever you got cooking we don't want it. And it's clear as day that this was an epic fail, that Finn Balor was getting cheered. The heel was getting cheered after delivering a coup de grace to your potential face, that's Gunther. That should tell you everything, Brian, that you need to know of how fucking stupid this shit is. There is no connection with Gunther as a face. None. Legit none. Triple H put this together and it fell flat on his face. I feel horrible for Gunther. I feel horrible for everybody involved. And Brian, the only thing that I can hope for at this point, that this was a wake-up call, that Triple H saw this go down, that this was the direction that he was going with, and it fell flat on its face. The crowd gave him a completely different reaction, a completely different perspective. And hopefully this is a wake-up call to be like, maybe turning Gunther isn't the best way to go. You fucking think, dude? If you want to do this in the future, sure, go and do that. The timing is not now, man. Nobody cares about Gunther as a face. There's no connection. It's dull. It's not interesting. The aura and the presence of Gunther as a face is not the same as a diabolical heel. If this is what we're doing with Gunther moving forward, I want no part of it. I want none. Absolutely none. And the only thing, Brian, that I can only hope for is that this is a wake-up call to Triple H, and maybe an audible is called and he can rectify this wrong. Because if this is where we're going, I'm telling y'all, and if especially this tweener shit, if you're going to have him just as a tweener, it's not going to work. It's not working with Braun Breaker, and it damn sure is not going to work with Gunther. Triple H, you need to get your head out of your own fucking ass. Period. Brian, what are your takes, man, on this whole situation?
No, really, I don't like anything about how any of this is being executed. Let me start with Gunther first, I guess. Like, I'm not even necessarily opposed to turning I don't agree. I don't think he needs to be turned face now, but okay, you want to turn him face. That's fine.
In the future, yeah, sure.
All you need to do that right now, if that's the way you wanted to go, and I expect, that he'll show up at Saturday night's main event and be a part of it. But if that's the way you want to go, all you need is Gunther and Ludwig right now. Ludwig is fucking killing it as a heel. You see what Gunther's doing, and even telling Ludwig, you need to go make your name for yourself. How do you do that? You take out Gunther. It elevates Ludwig. It solidifies Gunther in this face run, however well that's going to play out or not. But it doesn't have to do anything to do with Priest or Finn. Those two don't need to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go back. That's kind of why I was so convinced that Priest was going to win at War Games, because of this face turn that's happening. But now you're right. It's because I would say the play, if this match was happening is happening at Saturday night's main event, I think it's obvious they're about to take the title off Gunther. So I fully expect Finn to win at Saturday night's main event, whether that's because Priest intervenes or Ludwig intervenes. But that I guess would be where, Gunther I guess is solidified as the face. But it just, you're right. I mean, now if the crowd is chanting for Finn, I mean, what are you going to turn Judgment Day face, or you just kicking Finn out now of Judgment Day because he's going to be face? That's if you wanted to continue this Priest and Finn thing, fine, do that. You want to turn Gunther face? All you needed was Ludwig. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen at Saturday night's main event, but yeah, I think Finn's winning that title.
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, listen, no doubt, I'm sure they'll plant that seed, and they'll get to that Ludwig Gunther feud or animosity at some point. The problem I have though, Brian, is that Gunther as a face, it's not interesting. I don't care
I'm
about.
really interested to see, and even because I saw a little bit of Walter back in UK.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to expect from Gunter as a face, if I'm being honest. But he's so fucking good as a heel.
Right, yeah, like I
yeah,
don't understand. Like, just do that, man. Like, you have Seth,
yeah,
who's most likely gonna be a heel. You got Drew McIntyre that just came back, and now you got Gunther who could be that diabolical. Those are three top heels on Monday Night Raw that could truly play the part to the
yeah,
best of their ability. You're meshing Gunther as a face that just, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit. And guys, this is not even about personal preferences. This is not about opinions anymore. Even the crowd is telling you, we don't care about Gunther as a face. We're not backing him up. You're trying to play this sympathy card. We just want to see him get his ass whooped. We want another coup de grace delivered to this fucking guy. That tells you everything that you need to know, that this character with Gunther, this face character, is not interesting to people. He is
yeah.
better suited as a diabolical heel, and that's what he should continue to be going into 2025. It's not that hard, people. It doesn't make sense. Listen, if you want to revisit that and do Ludwig, like you said, Brian, because if you are going to do a face turn,
hmm
using Ludwig to catapult him to superstardom in that feud
yeah,
would be a
right.
really good way. Absolutely. But it's got to be done correctly to where there is some mystique and there is some interest in Gunther as a face. So it's got to be done correctly.
Right.
But it could work. It could possibly work. But just to do it with somebody like Finn and for somebody like Priest and because you're trying, the goal is to get to Finn Balor and Priest. That's also the goal from this company. So in the
Yeah.
meantime, we're going to turn we're going to turn Gunther face in the process. And bro, it fell flat on their face, man. The crowd went in the completely opposite direction. For a crowd that was really good this past Monday, I think they were in Everett, Washington, somewhere in Washington, I believe. The crowd was really good all night. And for them to kind of have a different reaction to what Triple H was trying to accomplish, that tells you everything you need to know, man, right? I'm not even giving you guys my personal thoughts and feelings about it. That's just what happens. And that's what Triple H needs to face head on, to where this may not work the way he wants to, because Gunther as a heel is more interesting to people than he is as a face. And that's it, man. Because and now what? Because so now we're gonna turn Gunther face. We're gonna get rid of the title, and now we're gonna pursue Damian and Finn Balor to where there's no legs to stand on with that feud, guys. Nobody cares. People are so.
And now it's just gonna be them. Now they're fighting for the title. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And again, the only thing that would get me somewhat interested is if they use Demon Finn Balor. That's really it. Outside of that, man, there's no other legs to stand on with this feud. There's not. You did the matchup at Bad Blood. It was a very underwhelming match. Finn Balor lost so simplistically, and nobody cares anymore. That spark is done. And you're going to have a second matchup to where you're just blurring the lines now with Gunther. Things are not making sense. He's still technically a heel, and he's fighting Dominic, and everything is so weird, man. Everything is just all over the place. And that's the problem with Triple H and his booking. And that's the problem with his creativity. Nothing is connecting, and nothing at times doesn't just make sense.
It's going to be interesting to see what they do at Saturday night's main event. Cause I'm fully convinced that and maybe they still are, but plans are for Finn to win that title. But if that's how the crowd's reacting, it'll be interesting to see if they still go with that, with the crowd cheering Finn, winning the title.
Because if that continues, man, you can't go along with that if the crowd continues to react that way. Like you can't do that
unless you turn Finn face all of a sudden.
Right? You got to call an audible, right? So there's many scenarios that they can do, right? They can go a very easy route to where Priest just costs Finn Balor because Balor has been costing Priest, and now it's kind of like retribution. That's kind of the easy route. They can also do that, plus having Ludwig Kaiser get involved too, so they can try to, I guess, kill two birds with one stone, planting two separate feuds and matches. Either way, like there's, I'm sure, multiple scenarios you can go. None of it's really that interesting or makes a whole lot of sense. Maybe for Ludwig and Gunther, but the problem with Ludwig and Gunther now, it's just that, again, there's no connection with this dude as a face, and that's the problem. And the fact that people might gravitate towards Ludwig more than they will Gunther. That's also the problem. And Ludwig,
I've been a fan. I mean, Ludwig, man, I've been on this guy for the last year and a half. Like, I think he's a superstar, man.
And bro, his booking isn't great either. He's stuck with another heel in Braun Breaker right now in this IC title situation. His booking is fucking garbage. Like, it's just everything, bro, is a mess with the world title situation, with the mid-card situation. It's a mess. It's so weird. And those are our takes in regards to it, but we'll see how Saturday night's main event goes. It is official. It is going to be Gunther, and it is going to be Finn Balor. Io Sky and Liv Morgan, that's going to be a matchup for Saturday night's main event as well. Obviously, to further along Rhea Ripley and Liv, as we all knew it was going to be. I would rather just get to Rhea and Liv now, because if you're really going to prolong that to Mania, oh my goodness, man. I don't know how many people are truly going to care about, unless there really is some creativity that Triple H maybe has. Again, I'm not holding out hope.
They can bank on, specifically with the women, to a Mania. That can't be Liv and Rhea. That, if it's going to be Rhea, taking the title, fine, whatever. But that's got to be Rhea and, I don't know, a Bianca, a Jade, a fucking, I don't know. But Rhea and Liv cannot be the main event or a match at Mania. Like, that's just too long.
No, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, obviously, of course, because Io Sky is technically the number one contender because she won a battle royal a couple of weeks ago. So they are going to have this matchup, and obviously Liv Morgan is going to retain. I would love if they just pulled a swerve and they would just have freaking Io Sky win the title. But I mean, we know it's not going to happen. And for Liv,
give Io her flowers, damn it, man. Let that woman.
Seriously,
damn it, she's so good. Shout out to Io.
Io Sky is so good, man. Absolutely, for sure, man. You could kind of see too, to where Dakota Kai is kind of doing her own thing with this mid-card title in this tournament. That honestly might be better off, because Damage Control being booked together, I don't know if WWE is just creative enough to give them something as a cohesive unit. They're honestly just better off doing their own separate things right now. But Io Sky, honestly, just have her go solo, man, and just let her fucking rock on it. This Damage Control shit isn't doing anything for anybody, and that includes Kairi Sane, that includes Dakota Kai, and that includes Io Sky herself. So who knows where that goes, man. But anyway, let's get into our final topic of the show. So yes, we got the women and the mid-card stuff, but we'll touch on that another day. Again, I talked about this mid-card title. I just don't think it's needed. I have my preferences of who I believe should be winning that championship, but again, man, I just don't think the title's needed. Now you have two separate mid-card titles. I think there's just so many fucking titles, man. It's not needed at all.
Forgive me if I'm. So do they have a U.S. and an IC title for the women now?
Yes.
Okay.
They have it not. Yeah. Oh yeah. For Monday Night Raw, it's the women's IC title, and then on SmackDown, it's the women's United States Championship. Yeah.
Okay.
And two in tournaments, triple threat tournaments. Yeah. That's what we're doing for the women. So, but another discussion for another day. But let's get into arguably the best segment of this show, and that is the New Day. That's right. For the second straight week in a row, it's the New Day that captivates the wrestling audience worldwide as they had their 10-year anniversary celebration. Both Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods are out there. There's balloons, there's pancakes, there's bootios everywhere. And, at first, Kofi and Xavier, they're giving their love and respect to the fans, for 10 plus years. We thank you guys, this and this and that. And then Xavier Woods starts to kind of get a little bit, serious, to where we want to let you guys know that what we're about to tell you is not your fault. And you can see that they're going in the direction that they're just going to call it a quits. We've been bickering over the last several weeks, and we kind of think that it's best if we just go our separate ways. There's no way to rectify the situation. They're just going to go their separate ways and call it a quits. And then on cue, Big E. That's right. Big E's music hits. He comes down the rampway wearing his tuxedo, his suit and all. He walks down to the ring, walks down the rampway. And Big E also has a serious look on his face, man. And he's like, listen, I wish I was here under different circumstances to see you guys bicker and scream at one another and say the most hurtful things, man. It's hurt me. It really has made me feel a certain type of way. And he really gets personal, talking about, how just their relationships and how far they've came. We've had 10 plus years ago, all we had was each other. Like you cried, like Xavier, you were crying on my shoulder when you won King of the Ring, right? Kofi, you came to my hospital bed with your beautiful daughter, and I held her in her arms, right? You guys checked on me when I was, just to make sure I was good with my neck and everything, when I was out for 4+ years. We're all we had, right? And to see you guys bicker, that hurts me. That makes me feel a certain type of way. And you can feel like just the feels are in the air, the tension that's in the air. And Big E lays down a pipe bomb, I guess, no pun intended to Punk. But he lays down a offer to where I'm going to remind you guys, I'm going to be by your side until I'm medically cleared. I'm going to be by your side as your manager. That's right. I'm going to be your manager until I'm medically cleared. I'm able to fight alongside you guys. I'm going to remind you to who the hell you are. And I'm going to be with you guys every single week. And I'm going to be your manager. And everybody in its tenure in that arena was with it, including myself. I'm like, okay, does that work long term? I don't know, but I'm willing to give it a chance. However, I didn't even need to give it a chance at all, because that's not where it was going, because everybody in the arena loved it, but there was 2 other people that didn't, and that was Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. And Xavier has this look on his face, and he's like, now? After you saw us for weeks bicker, scream at one another to the point where we have to break this up, we have to call this a quits, you have the balls to now come here and now you want to rectify this? Now you want to come back? Like, dude, you left us, bro. And like Big E is like, dude, I broke my neck. Like I couldn't come back. And then Xavier Woods gets involved. Like, dude, you left us, bro. Like yeah, okay, you broke your neck. So what? Like legit, that's a quote. You broke your neck. So what? If that, bro, and you can hear the crowd, the gasp in the crowd. He's like, Stone Cold broke his neck. He came back, right? Edge broke his neck. He came back. Kurt Angle broke his neck and he came back, right? As big as you are, as strong as you are, you're telling me that you couldn't have come back a long time ago, right? Because the reality is that, Big E, you chose your desk job over us. You choose your new life over us. You chose your new girlfriend over us. You chose yourself over us. And then Xavier Woods, he gets back on the microphone. He's like, listen, why don't you do us a favor, get out of this ring and go back to your desk where you belong. And Big E doesn't have the microphone at this point. He's just like, the microphone has already been dropped and now he's just in distraught. And Big E refuses to leave the ring. He's like, nah, man, like I'm not willing to let this go. I'm not willing to just throw this away, like a decade of this, man. I'm not going to do it. Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, perfect. Kofi puts out his chest, wants no part of Big E's apology, wants nothing to do with Big E. And Big E's mannerisms were so good, man. He's just like, that's it, it's over. Like that's what you're telling me. It's always screaming at Xavier Woods. He's like, it's over. You're telling me it's over, it's done, it's over. He had no choice, man, but to leave that ring, walk up the rampway with his tail tucked between his legs. And Xavier and Kofi, man, they face off at one another. And you can hear Xavier Woods say, now it's just me and you, pointing to Kofi. They connect, they shake hands. And when they were at their lowest at the beginning of this segment, they're stronger together, Kofi and Xavier, than they've ever been. And that's kind of goosebumps if you really think about it that way. And now you're seeing this new mean streak of this new version of the New Day, to where Big E has now been tossed aside. And now it's a clean slate with Xavier and Kofi. They both turn heel, not just Xavier, not just Kofi, both of them turn heel, and they give Big E Das Boot out of the New Day, man. I mean, bro, excellent. Absolutely excellent. I really can't say anything else, man. The last 2 weeks, the New Day have crushed it. And I've said it for weeks, man. If you're going to do this split, Big E has to be a part of it. I love the swerve. I love everybody's involvement and how everything came across, the believability, the mannerisms. Everything was just so fucking good. And on this swerve, man, I don't mind it because, and I'll let you get your takes in, Brian. I know I've been speaking a lot, because you question, right, that they would have done this split with Kofi and Xavier. You know, Kofi going on his own. Is Kofi going to do anything bigger than Kofi Mania that he did several years ago, right? Think about it. Xavier Woods, even though we want to see Xavier Woods and see what he's got, do we trust that he's going to get solidified, that the booking is going to be, justified? Is the booking going to be up to par with Xavier Woods, right? And you're seeing this with the Street Profits over on SmackDown, and now you're seeing this with the New Day, to where this could work, to where now the New Day has this new mean streak. Not saying it can't go off the rails, not saying that this won't lead to anything and this could possibly get redundant, because there's a major possibility, because I can see a lot of people, Brian, saying, oh, well, what really changed? It's still the New Day. Now they're just meaner, right? And that's fair to say. But I'm willing to see this type of mean streak and where it goes, maybe depending on Big E's situation. Again, honestly, there's really no rush for him to come back, because with next, situations like that, I'm just glad that Big E is just doing normal activities and normal human type things. So yeah, man, it's just, I like the swerve, because even though I would like to see Xavier and just see what he's got, I don't know if he were to go on his own, Brian, and if the booking is going to be up to par once this whole New Day story is all said and done. And now you're giving them this new type of mean streak. Same with the Street Profits, to where it still can work. You're doing the same with the Street Profits in here with the New Day. It can work, but you got to get creative. You got to think outside the box. And for a tag division that is, let's face it, very just piss poor and just all over the place, this could be a good clean slate for the New Day. And this could also kickstart Xavier when he does go maybe on his own in the near future, having this new type of persona with Kofi. But you got to kickstart this momentum. You got to ignite this momentum into next week, into Netflix, and then into WrestleMania this year. But man, from top to bottom, this was so fucking good, man. They started hour number 2 from start to finish. It was great. The twist was great. And yeah, man, that's all I got. Just really well done from everybody. Brian, what you got, man? That's a lot, but what do you got to say, man? This New Day is over. The split, it's done. Big E has gotten Das Boot, this new version of the New Day. What do you think, man?
I'm split here. Great. The segment was great. That was fantastic. I do have, because something that I called that Biggie said, or and you just said it too. Until I'm cleared or something like that, I can come back. So I'm kind of under the assumption that we're really not going to see Biggie back in the ring.
Probably not.
But
No.
I don't, by him saying that, I don't know if maybe he's closer than. I mean, maybe he is, preparing a return sometime in the near future. I don't know.
Yeah.
So just by him saying that, I mean, I'm a little intrigued by what that means. Great to see Big E back in the ring. Yeah, I mean, if he could perform as a in a managerial role or something of that nature, I'd love to see that. But long term, overall, like just me personally, I'm gonna have a very, very short leash with this New Day thing. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I don't
I don't blame
care
you.
that they're heel New Day now. After 10 years, now they're heels. Like, I not, and I hear everything you're saying. I don't know that. I mean, I wouldn't expect Kofi to ever, reach Kofi Mania again. Xavier Woods, at least in the short term. I mean, of course, he's going to start in the mid card somewhere, IC title, US title, whatever. But I mean, long term, I just really, I don't have any interest in seeing heel New Day. If this is
Fair.
something that, again, for maybe like a short term where like Big E's still going to now be like kind of in and out, and maybe this is like a short heel run and it does just kind of blow up, fine, whatever. But yeah, I really think it's time for New Day to break up, man. If yeah, however that happens or whatever, like yeah, I mean, okay, we'll see a heel New Day run and maybe we'll see, I don't know, maybe we don't see Big E again. That would suck.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not ecstatic about a heel day or heel day, a heel New
Technically,
Day
the
run.
heel day. They are
Yeah,
heels.
maybe they just change the
Yeah.
name to the heel day.
The heel day. Right. That's funny.
But but the
Yeah.
segment itself, yeah, that was great. Big E fucking nailed it.
Absolutely.
And just to even the way the story now that they're telling is kind of like really like to the point where you're telling me Kofi and Woods are you're two grown ass men and you're gonna look at a man with a life changing broken neck and you're like, you weren't here when we were bickering and arguing with each other. I mean, what the fuck is that shit? I mean, and I get it, you're trying to get heel heat, and yes, that's gonna get
It
it, but
worked. And it worked. You heard
it's
that
just
crowd. They booed the shit out of him at the end of
yeah,
the segment.
it's just I don't know.
No,
I'm
it's
not
fair.
interested in heel New Day at all, but
That's fair.
we'll see.
Yeah. No, everything you said is very fair because again, just like we talked about with Drew McIntyre and the whole Punk Rollins situation, it could fall flat on its face. Like
Yeah.
again, I don't give Triple H the benefit of the doubt because majority of the time he doesn't give me a reason to give him the benefit of the doubt. But
I don't even so who are the so okay, so Finn and JD
JD
are still the tag team
are
champs on Raw, right?
on Raw, correct?
Okay. Heel tag team.
Heel, yeah.
So New Day isn't going to be involved with them.
Viking Raiders. I don't know
You
what
got
the
the
Viking
Viking
Raiders.
Raiders.
I guess they're heels. I don't know. They're also like tweeners. I don't know what the Viking Raiders
Yeah.
are doing. Yeah.
So
Um,
we'll see. I just think, it's unless there's something that we don't know with Big E being more involved here in the near future, like I just think they should have just broken up, really.
yeah. No, it's fair. Again, I can see from many different perspectives of where people are coming from with this because again, it's just we've said it for the longest time. Like something needs to happen with the New Day at some point because
Yeah.
as much as we respect all of these dudes and what they've done over
Yeah,
the
for
last 10
sure.
plus years, it just ran its course, man, and something needed to change.
And listen,
And
that's hard. A 10 plus year run as a tag team, or even
yeah,
a
as a
10
faction,
plus year run as a character that doesn't really change much. That's fucking hard to do, man. So shout out
Absolutely.
to them. This isn't a knock on them by any means, but
No,
it's
no.
just run its course.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so as much as, I hear where you're coming from in regards to, because I see it again too. I've said it earlier, like, the New Day, they're still technically heels. Like, what's really the long-term plan for
Right.
this? But I also see the same thing. If you were to just split them up, I'm like, all right, like, where is Kofi going once this is over? Like, are you really going to
Yeah,
do
that's
something
fair.
that's just as big as Kofi Mania? And as much as we want to see Xavier Woods go solo, like, do we really believe that the booking is going to be up to par? That's going to make that's going to make Xavier Woods a bigger star than he was with the New Day. So again,
Right.
it all comes down to the booking at the end of the day. If there is a true plan for Kofi and Xavier to where they got really good heel heat this past Monday, the heat that they
Yeah.
got from this segment was really good. The reaction that they got from the crowd was good. And hopefully that steam, that animosity continues. And if that does, Brian, you have something in this team
Yeah.
as heels. You truly do. And no doubt it could fall flat on its face if there's no plan. I definitely hear where people like you, Brian, and others are coming from, to where you could have just split them up and you could have just went this at a completely different direction. And Big E's involvement too. Again, until
That
further
was
notice,
great.
man.
Yeah.
Big E himself in this segment was great.
And I mean, Kofi, they were all great. Again, the segment was great. Yeah, all of it.
Yeah. And for Big E himself and what he's going to be doing, who knows? I'm kind of just hopeful that he does maybe come back, and maybe he
Yeah.
becomes a mouthpiece for a certain person, maybe for the time being, and that's how we start up a certain feud with New Day, with Big E as, I guess, the managerial type of role for somebody else, or Big E is just going to be off of WWE television until he gets cleared. That maybe
Yeah.
there's a chance that he is, I guess, further upon schedule than a lot of us realize of what's going on. And if that's the case, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that's kind
I'll
of
say
like,
this with this whole heel turn, whatever Big E is cleared to do or not, like you can't now you've done this and had this segment with Big E. You can't just now turn New Day heel and not have Big E in, even if it's a
involved.
sporadic every couple weeks, like something has to be involved with Big E at
You know
least
what? You know what I
in the
would
near
love.
future.
You know what I would love for them to do, Brian, right? We talk about like him with this new desk job that he has, right? Like on these
Hmm.
pre-shows and everything, man. You can do some creative shit with Big E, at the
Yeah.
desk and everything, and you can have like a segment. So where, again, no physicality, right? And this is what I loved about this segment in particular. There was no physicality. There was no physicality that was even needed, right? Obviously, of
No.
course, there's Big E with his neck and his injury, but it wasn't even needed to begin with. And you can do the same thing to where maybe if you were to have Big E show up on, at a desk job to promote, like maybe on social media or whatever, maybe you can do something to where it gets on the show itself, to where a lot of people can watch it. And you have a segment with Kofi and Xavier with Big E at his desk job, and you can kind of cut a segment however you want to cut it. You could do stuff like that to where you could
Right.
still involve Big E and still not have any physicality, and you can keep that steam alive. So hopefully, if that's the case, Brian, they get creative to involve Big E in those scenarios. But yeah,
that's going to be the key. That's kind of what I'm saying. If they don't involve Big E here now in the next, I don't know. It's hard to put a time limit on it until a heel New Day can really get solidified. You have to use Big E as the catalyst to that right now in some way. You can't just leave Big E out of it and off TV and just have New Day go on a heel run against fucking DIY or some shit,
Right, right. No, absolutely, yeah. No, Big E has to be involved in this to get creative, and I'm sure conversations will be had. I'm sure they're being had as of right now to have Big E involved in certain segments, whether maybe it's at his desk job Or shoot, if you really want to go like an extreme level, they brought up Big E's girlfriend. If you want to have Big E's girlfriend be a part of like a segment to where you do like a certain vignette, like whether it's at like their house that Big E and his girlfriend live in, and you can do some really cool dastardly shit like that to where they are legit going off like the rails. Like this is a legit new version of the New Day where it was all smiles, right? Pancakes and bootios, and now it's just like straight just diabolical now to where they're
and I don't know who his girl is. She a wrestler or is she just
she's not a wrestler, no.
or...
Just so she's this, I believe she's Mia Yim's sister, by the way. I'm forgetting her name. Yeah, so she's related to Mia Yim or Michin. Shout out to Michin. So that's how I believe Big E and her know each other because of Michin's
I'm sure she has
family.
Some knowledge or whatever of the
and there's some ties with Michin to where maybe they can work out something in a segment to where, again, if she wants to do that, if it's approved by her. But I would, at least if I'm Triple H, if I got the creative pen, I would pitch that offer, because if anything to keep this steam, like you said, alive, Brian, the better it is it's going to be for Kofi and Xavier and this new version of themselves, as well as for Big E, if the plan is for him to come back, if he is healthy enough to where in the future he can come back and he's medically cleared. So, but
that's what like even if he's never medically cleared, like. And this is my opinion. The only way that them just turning heel works for any longevity, any long period of time, is if and only if this initially centers around Big E and the rest of the New Day. If this heel run is not solidified with more of that and interaction between them two, then this is gonna be shit.
Oh, no, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. And, do we have hope that it's going to happen that way? Honestly, not really. I don't know really what the plans are for that. Hopefully that's the case. But again, when it just comes to this company, man, I'll believe it when I see it, Brian, at the end of the day. I'm hopeful, but at the end of the day, I just have a weird feeling that this is going to be a sign to where now Xavier and Kofi are just going to ramp roughshod, I guess, through the tag division or whatever comes across their path. Whether it's LWO, I could see that to where they run into the LW because they are faces, right? Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. You can see that shit happening from a mile away. So I can see that to where, if that's the case, then that steam is going to freaking cool off if Big E is not involved for sure. But
shout out
we'll
to Big E, man. Glad to see him back, and hopefully this means that we'll see more of him in the future.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, shout out to Big E and shout out to both Kofi and Xavier, man. Everybody involved in this segment particular, because I still want to give everybody credit. Shout out to Triple H for approving it. Shout out to everybody involved, producers, because this, man, I give WWE criticism for justified reasons, but this, man, the last several weeks with the New Day have been really, really fucking good. And it's been the nucleus of what's made this show, at least have legs to stand on, right? There's Karrion Kross. He had a good vignette of a segment. 2 minutes of Punk and Rollins was good. And then afterwards, I'm like, it's Sami Zayn and Rollins. That's all it really was the last several minutes in that opening segment. You got this tournament. You got Gunther's face turn, which has nobody interested at all. So, because people are already saying like, "Oh, this was a great show," I'm like, "Whoa, man, let's pump the brakes." Yeah. Is it maybe better than most? Sure, and I'm sure you can thank the Drew McIntyre return, and you can thank the New Day segment because of that. And I'm looking at the rating now, man. They were able to get a 1.7 million from the show. That's honestly the highest it's been over the last several weeks now. And I'm sure most of it has to do with the fact that it is a post-Survivor Series show. But hopefully there's enough interest. Is there enough interest to where you can get that same number the following week? That's going to be also the question too. But thank you guys so much for tuning in for another edition of the Ruthless Talk podcast. This was a Monday Night Raw review, not a full review, but at least a good chunk of what we wanted to talk about in the show. Make sure you guys stay tuned for this weekend. We will talk some AEW. We will talk SmackDown and see what the fallout's going to be with this new bloodline and Solo Sikoa after their loss from Survivor Series. Of course, with Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens and them trying to reignite, well, maybe not reignite, but to continue that whole feud leading into Saturday night's main event. We're going to talk all about that. And once again, man, from the start of this show, man, thank you guys so much for an amazing 2024. There's still some content that's going to be made before this year ends. We have a very special finale episode that's going to come up. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that, as that's still in the works as of right now. We will have Saturday night's main event, that review show with the special guests coming up in the next week or so. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And you see the banner down below. As always, make sure you follow us on Instagram and TikTok. That is ruthless_talk. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure you also stay notified on the channel to when a episode does get published out. You are notified to when it does get released. So make sure you stay tuned for many more content to come. Of course, we got a new season coming up for 2025 and a bunch of other special episodes to come. So make sure you stay tuned for all of it. Thank you guys so much for an amazing year. Still more content to be made, and appreciate all of you guys. Brian, final thoughts before we end the show.
Yeah, again, thank you guys, everybody, so much for an amazing year in our platforms and the growth we've had. So thank you guys so much. And this Saturday, tune in, man. We haven't talked about AEW too much here lately for what is there to talk about, I guess. But I'm going to be coming out both barrels on Saturday. So
right,
yeah, man.
That's freaking what is
game AEW?
As what does the gun club say, right? We got 2 words for you. Freaking guns up.
Oh
right?
yeah, are they? Never mind. I'll save it for Saturday.
We'll save it for Saturday. That's our cliffhanger for Saturday show, man. Stay tuned for it. That is going to do it for today's episode, everybody. My name is James Porcelli.
I'm Brian Thomas.
Until next time, there will be a next time. Your boys are signing off, saying salute.
Peace out.
And take care, everybody. Top guys, we are out.
Until we go back.